The country has been on stage 6 for the last 5 days and there seems to be little chance of it abating. In its latest update, Eskom says that this stage will continue to be implemented until Tuesday and the pattern will be repeated until further notice. Its breakdowns are currently 17,325 megawatts of generating capacity. Weekend publications report that the utility may have quietly slipped into stage 8 of load shedding. Minister of International Relations and Cooperation Naledi Pandor says this is a critical emergency and needs to be attended to.
I think it is dismal that we're at stage 8 of load shedding. I really believe we've got to address this as a critical emergency because our economy cannot afford what we're seeing today with respect to energy availability. And I believe that the government is taking steps to address this, but we've got to have a unity of the private sector, of non-profits and the government working coherently together to address this problem, because no issue is an issue that affects only one part of our society. And this matter of electricity is such a negative that I think we've got to give really massive attention to it, and we've got to ensure we overcome it.
Delegates from the African continent have gathered in Cape Town for the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Business Forum. Business Leadership South Africa CEO Busisiwe Mavuso says there is no way Africa can industrialize if there is no power to do so.
Big impediment and a big enabler is having a conducive environment. You can't produce and you can't talk about agro-processing, value addition or beneficiation if you actually don't have energy. Energy is a critical input into any production process. We are talking about Africa industrializing. There is no way we are going to be able to industrialize without energy. So that is actually critical. You know, I think the issue of Africa's development has to be treated as agent, and I worry that we are not treating it as agent. The issue of energy in South Africa, for instance, we knew that we were going to be sitting here as a country, 10 years, 15 years ago, but we have done very little about intervening and making sure that we put interventions in place that will make sure that we've got a stable energy supply.
Stavros Nicolaou of Aspen Pharmacare agrees.
Look, one can play around with technical terms. The fact is we have an energy constraint in the country. And as I said earlier, what is important is that we have one single narrative coming out of the country. There shouldn't be multiple narratives or multiple messages. One single message, even if it's bad news, the market will accept bad news as long as it understands what it is and how long it's going to take to fix it. And that's where we should be placing our focus, on communicating that. And above all, the most important thing is we need to accelerate the other forms of energy. Solar, battery, wind, as I said earlier. We need to accelerate those, and you can only accelerate those things if you get policy certainty and implementation, and also if we reduce both the cost and the administrative burden of doing business in our country.
Meanwhile, the National Union of Metal Workers, NUM, will be commencing wage negotiations at Eskom this week. The union wants a pay hike of 15% for Eskom workers, as well as the reinstatement of performance bonuses, as well as a 7,000 rand housing allowance. Diabo Seto, SABC News, Johannesburg.